Something very odd is happening to the most productive kind of batted balls. Barrels are the ideal combination of exit velocity and launch angle that historically produces amazing batted ball outcomes. Look at the barrel rate leaderboard this season, and it is filled with the best hitters. If you barrel the ball 1 out of every 10 times you put one in play, you'll have an above average barrel rate, and among qualified hitters this season, more than 75% of the names who do that are above average hitters. It's hard to be bad when you hit the ball hard in the air. But here's something odd. Take a look at the production of barrels since 2015 in MLB, and you'll notice something very obvious. Barrels are less productive now than they were back then. But we can get even more specific to figure out why this is happening. Roughly 50% of barrels are home runs. So if we focused on the barrels that aren't home runs or those that stay in the park, maybe we could find something. In that crop of batted balls, we see a drop in league production relative to 2015 that's even larger than just looking at barrels overall. And now let's make one final distinction and split up these barrels that stay in the yard by batted ball direction, so pull, straightaway, and opposite field. Here is the smoking gun. Depending on what direction a ball is hit, the decay of that ball's productivity has declined at a different rate dating back to 2015. Balls hit to center field specifically are losing value at a faster rate than anything else. And therein lies the story which we will explore in this video. Balls hit to center field are less productive. Why is it happening? And what are hitters going to do about it? Watch any baseball segment with a hitter talking about their swing, and there's a good chance you'll hear the phrase, stay through the middle of the field, or I'm thinking right center if they're a right-handed hitter. You might think I'm kidding, but I'm not.
For me, I would try to stay gap to gap.
My thought process as a hitter was always to sit heater, middle away, right? I wanted to be able to drive the ball to right center.
Yeah, no, when I'm going good, I'm
right center.
Right center.
And it took me like 30 seconds to find those 3 clips. I actually think 50% or more of the hitter demos on MLB Network's YouTube page have some version of this phrase in it. And I get what's being said. I don't think these hitters are actively trying to hit the ball the other way. They're saying that's their mindset, and that mindset allows them to eventually pull the ball. It's kind of like that old Alex Rodriguez clip of him swinging down at the ball. And I love this thing because there are exactly 0 A-Rod home runs on swings that have this negative 10-degree attack angle at the point of contact. Feel versus real, we don't talk about it enough. That advice in the modern day, if taken literally, would be awful given the barrel rate decline we just showed. Now you've probably already guessed why the barrel to center field that stays in the park is less productive. It's not really the hitter or even really the baseball, which some people speculate. It's the defender. Center fielders have gotten really good, and they're playing further back than at any point since we started tracking their positioning. The average starting position for a center fielder in 2026 is 7 feet deeper than it was in 2016. And the vast majority of the game's best defenders are already very fast. They've actually gotten faster, and they make all their money going into their left and into their right. This backing up happened most dramatically between the 2022 and 2023 seasons, where the league on average took a few steps back. Then we saw some correction, and since we've kind of evened back out to where this trend started, which is still pretty deep. Center fielders are also younger. Shout out to Mike Petriello for the stat that the number of plate appearances by center fielders 30 years or older has been cut in half since the 2016-2017 area. And analytics have led to really sharp positioning as well, based on hitter spray charts and a variety of other information. And if that wasn't enough evidence, PCA is on track to have the single best defensive season we've ever seen since fielding run value became a stat back in 2018. And he's gonna blow it out of the water when you look at other outfielders specifically. So what do hitters do to counter this? They have a few options. The most obvious one has really popped up in a lot of data-driven organizations, but also in the facilities outside of these organizations that train players in the offseason. It's pulling the ball in the air. When we looked at the rate of decline in barrel productivity, those to a hitter's pull side weren't hurt as much as those to center field. There's a stat called air pull that lets us measure when a hitter lifts the ball, how often is the spray direction of that ball to his pull side. This number league-wide had been stagnant until about 2017-2018, when we started to see an uptick in the rate of pulled fly balls on the league level. This season in 2026, hitters are pulling their fly balls almost 28% of the time, which is the highest we've ever seen in the pitch tracking era. So, pull all your fly balls, right? Well, kind of. There's actually a pretty weak correlation between pulling fly balls and expected weighted on-base average, or xWOBA, which is really saying, hey, there are a number of ways to be good offensively. xWOBA values everything a hitter does: walks, contact quality, avoiding strikeouts. That correlation of pulled fly balls and xWOBA is answering the question, do the players who pull the most happen to be the best offensively? And the answer is, well, not really. The hitters who maximize pull rates in MLB tend to have other issues offensively, hence the small negative correlation. Different players and even teams arrive at production in different ways. We can see this on the team level this season. The Brewers don't strike out a lot, they make a lot of contact, they don't really pull their fly balls at all, and they're an average offense. The White Sox strike out a lot, they hit a ton of home runs, and they're also basically an average offense. We can also look at players who are struggling year over year and compare their pulled fly ball rate from this season to the prior season and kind of tell that, okay, when there's some deviation from your career norm at least, it generally does not allow you to slug as much. Of the 15 players who had the largest decreases in pulled fly ball rate between 2025 and 2026, only one of them increased their slugging percentage. And within that group, you see some players who have run into pretty big slumps to start the season. Fernando Tatis Jr. is probably the most notable. Crow-Armstrong is in here as well, although he's gotten better of late. Salvador Perez has been awful this year, and I think I know why. Riley Green is actually a curious case of not hitting home runs, but walking more and pulling fewer of his fly balls. He's actually been more productive despite all this, which is a pretty good lesson that pulling fly balls alone are not the only thing that matters. When you're looking at a strategic choice in baseball, like how often you pull your fly balls, and trying to connect that back to an offensive performance indicator like an xwOBA, or even just a raw slugging percentage, which isn't considering plate approach, it's still really important to control for the skill element of what we're talking about here, which in this case is bat speed. It's one of the most important things in your fingerprint as a hitter because it defines the paths for you to be productive. I was doing some very, very amateur modeling of slug alongside bat speed and pulled fly ball rate, and the takeaways are pretty obvious. First, fast bats slug more, period. Guys who are swinging the bat faster just start from a higher baseline when considering how their performance will change if they pulled more fly balls. But the more interesting finding is that hitters with more bat speed actually gain more slug with every additional pulled fly ball. I hope that makes sense. There's actually more incentive the harder you swing to pull more fly balls. You can see this by the increase in the slope of the line as we move up our bat speed buckets. So within your bat speed group, there's incentive to pull the ball more, as it leads to more production from a slug standpoint. But in stitching that back to total offensive production like xwOBA, we have to layer in how that pull in the air will affect the rest of your profile, particularly your plate approach, ability to make contact, and everything else. I was chatting with Driveline's director of hitting, Tanner Stokey, about how all pull is not exactly the same. This is something you can deduce if you just think of the idea that hitters in baseball are not trying to maximize their pulled fly ball rate. So as a byproduct of that, you can kind of assume that, okay, if they're not trying to do that when that can lead to more production, then there's probably some residual effect of doing it. This gets to the idea that not all pulled fly balls are the same. It's not something I'm going to dig super deep into in this video because it probably deserves its own video. But talking to Stokey, there was a couple things that jumped out about how you get to that pull. Some of the primary ones being how important the timing of your torso rotation is. So if you're getting to your pulled fly balls with more of like an upper body stance where your arms are coming through and early in the swing, what'll happen is you'll lose bat speed and contact quality. Same idea as if you're trying to side bend or anything to get to that pulled fly ball, a similar thing will happen. Your ball flight on that pulled fly ball will also drop in productivity. So there's a lot of things happening in the body that kind of inform, okay, hey, this is how much you can pull in the air effectively. Driveline actually made these cool visuals showing where hitters' peak bat speed actually occurs along their path based on, I imagine, their body sequencing and everything else. And this kind of highlights the point that not all bat speed and therefore not all pull is created equal. But bat speed is kind of inescapable in the hitting equation. To answer the question we posed at the beginning of this video, what do hitters do in order to counter the drop in productivity of balls hit to center field? Pull the ball more, but as we're talking about, there's some issues there in terms of how your body's getting to that pull. Maybe the lower risk option is just to swing the bat faster, have higher bat speed. It's really simple, but the best hitters in baseball don't maximize pull rate, they maximize bat speed and hold a lot of other things constant, or engage in what I'd call positive trade-offs, less contact, but enough of a bat speed gain for their overall profile to improve. Bat speed creates margin for error. Pull doesn't really create more margin for error. Balls hit harder to the opposite field will be more productive than those hit softer, and the same applies to center field. So if you're swinging the bat fast enough, you can largely pay less attention to some of the nuance around how much less productive batted balls are to center field. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, what does this swing the bat faster idea remind you of? I'll give you a second here because you're probably going to get it right. It seems a lot like pitching and velocity. Velocity is king. Why? Because it creates margin for error. Bat speed creates margin for error. Pitch velocity creates margin for error, just in different ways. Baseball is a really explosive rotational sport, and hitters are training to explode and rotate as fast as humanly possible. And as a result of that, perhaps we're seeing more injuries in hitters from an oblique standpoint and pitchers from an elbow popping standpoint. But it's hard to get around the fact that, yeah, when you throw harder, you're generally better, and when you swing the bat faster, you're generally better. So who in the minor leagues from an organization standpoint seems to be abiding by these rules? I tweeted this out the other day, but here's a plot of 90th percentile exit velocity and contact rate based on organization. Now, this isn't nailing who develops talent the best on the hitting side or anything along those lines. What I really think it's doing is more so IDing either A, what the biases in these teams' models are from an acquisition standpoint, whether it's draft or even just minor league free agency, or something else perhaps that I may be overlooking, but that's kind of the main angle I take. I like this data a bit more than looking purely at the major league side, where more money is involved. But it does a good job of at least showing categorically who's chasing big bat speed, which has a nice correlation to 90th percentile exit velocity, and who's leaning on more contact. The Yankees and the Red Sox are a pair of organizations that really stand out, hitting the ball super hard, making a reasonable enough amount of contact that it should result in success at the major league level for a lot of these hitters. The Athletics, on the other hand, 2 years in a row have been the contact kings of the minors, not valuing bat speed, it seems, much at all, unless perhaps they think they can develop it. So let's recap this all. Barreled balls that are hit to center field are less productive than they were 10 years ago by a really large margin. This is primarily driven by center fielders becoming really, really good defenders. They're faster, they're younger, they're playing further back. Analytics are positioning them more effectively to take away a lot of these balls that would have otherwise created slug for hitters. So the hitters have to counter. How are they going to counter? They're going to either pull the ball more or swing the bat faster. Air pull or bat speed. But as we kind of talked about, that I think is deserving of an entirely different video, one that I'm probably going to have to recruit some people from the industry to help me with, because I always lean a bit more of my understanding on the pitching side of things, is that when you try to maximize air pull and bat speed, it has residual effects. It's not as easy as just saying, I'm going to pull the ball as much as possible for my given bat speed interval and chase this production. As a result of that, what happens are often residual effects on hitters in ways that we don't maybe fully understand unless we're working with hitters every day, or some people who do, I imagine, have some theories as to the optimal way to pull things. Torso timing seems to be a really important thing in talking to some people in baseball. Of those two buckets, which one is more effective? I really think the gains from bat speed are more effective than the pure gains from air pull. I almost like looking at air pull as like a way, like a temperature, like what is that called when you're a kid? A thermometer. You put it in your mouth and it gives you an idea. That's kind of the way to do it. You plug it in every year and just go, okay, cool. It seems like this guy's a bit more off his baseline, or he's not pulling as much as he used to. He probably has to get back to doing that. And as a result of that, we can assume maybe something slightly off in how he's moving fundamentally as a hitter. So I view that as more something that is almost a gauge. Obviously, there is some incentive to maximize it, whereas bat speed is the thing that kind of affects everything. It affects the quality of your ground balls, your line drives, your fly balls, your alpha balls, your center field balls, your pull balls. And to me, just on the surface, it seems like the returns there come with a little bit less risk, at least for your body type. I know there's a lot of high performance and strength stuff that goes into force production, the rate of force development, that it probably has an influence on what your like absolute bat speed cap is. That seems like the lower risk way to counter this idea of balls being hit to center field. The question is what happens long term here. On the velocity side of things, we're just seeing it continue to go up and up. Is that going to continue to happen on the bat speed side of things? And as a result of that, are we going to continue to see obliques and rib fractures from guys rotating too quick with a bat that's huge for the most part? It remains to be seen. But this was kind of my attack and approach to hitting and understanding the modern hitting game. And I just think it's fascinating how less productive balls hit to center field have become and what hitters are going to do about it. That's maybe a really good takeaway in theme in this video and something that we could return to in a year or so, or maybe less than that. Who knows? Appreciate you as always for checking out this channel. And I'll see you soon. Take care.